to the cloud. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us. And we're here to tell you kind of about what ASCM Twin Cities is up to and has been up to for a while now, trying to create some new activity and new ideas, innovative classes, and some of the same old classes that we've always had. So I'm going to start this off with Natalie is also on the call here. So we're going to do introductions. I'll do mine first, give Natalie a chance to overcome the shock of hearing that she's going to have to introduce herself, and then we'll get into it. So I'm John Melby. I'm the president of the chapter for about the last 5-something years. I'm also, since last September, I'm the managing director of the chapter, and we'll get a little bit into what the structure of the chapter is during the presentation, so I won't dig deeper into that. Chapter's been around for years and years, and we're basically in supply chain education, networking opportunities, and trying to really break the mold in terms of what we offer compared to what we've always offered. We're really trying to be innovative and grow, always thinking in terms of member value. So Natalie, I'll turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Natalie Dietz. I am the executive director for the Twin Cities chapter. I have been with the chapter for 24 years, I think, and started out in working in a partnership, and now John is my partner, and we are trying, like as he said, trying to do some things new and different, and trying to stay relevant for our members. Prior to joining the chapter, I was a purchasing manager and was a member of ASCM, so that was my immediate connection. And so I got my CPIM certification in the 90s, and then accepted the job opportunity working for the chapter, and I've been here ever since. Happy to field and answer any of your questions tonight or anytime by email or phone call to the office.
Yeah, and I didn't put phone numbers on here, but if you go twincities.ascm.org, go to there's Natalie's phone number is all over that thing. You can reach out to either one of us, but Natalie's the one who has the answers. I will just forward your question to Natalie, generally speaking. Okay, so we call this Ask Us Anything, and I'm going to try and move kind of fast here, but I am also going to say, if you have questions during this, please bring them up. There's ways to raise your hand, and there's things you can write in the chat. Natalie will help me monitor that. And then we can stop and answer the questions. If you can hold them till the end, that's okay too. We'll have time at the end for that. So we called it Ask Us Anything, but really what we're going to do is go through what the chapter offers, what are the types of things that we're doing, what are some of the creative ways that we're expanding the things that we offer. So general information, start with this. ASCM Twin Cities is a premier elite partner of ASCM, but we are separate entities. So a lot of times people get confused and they call an order through ASCM, and then they call Natalie and want help with something, and we don't have any information because the order didn't come through us. So we can always be better equipped to help you if you encounter an issue, if you purchase through the chapter. But if you have questions at the beginning and you're trying to figure out what to do, if it works out better that you purchase through ASCM, whether it's cheaper or for some other reason, we will guide you that way. We're not trying to make sure you pay us extra money. We're trying to make sure you get the best deal. And often we get those calls from people that are looking for help, and then we just can't do what we could do. So the other thing I mentioned earlier is that we've got the chapter is organized slightly differently than other chapters are, and certainly than we used to be. We've gone through a couple of iterations in the last few years. But what we've landed on here recently is that we're going to have governance by the board of directors, which means we still have board of directors. We have about 14 or 15 people on that board of directors, with a couple potential additional people coming on. And so that's where the board of directors is who keeps us on the path. Are we going in the right direction? They give us that guidance to say, okay, you got something creative here, stick with it, or you're kind of getting out of bounds. Let's not go down that road just yet. And then the execution of things is done by paid staff. At least that's the general approach. And so the idea that we ran into, of course, is that people who are volunteering for things can't just jump and run and be available to host a meeting or show up and help us organize and set up for a meeting, because anybody in supply chain knows that the supply chain folks are kind of busy. So we've tried to kind of shift and say the board of directors' responsibilities is to help us stay on the path, and the execution will be done by paid staff, which at the current time is Natalie and myself. Some of the things we're going to talk about tonight and some of the things that we are creating are only available at ASCM Twin Cities. We're not following a particular path all the time. We're creating some things that really are unique, and we'll get into that a little bit more as well. Some of the things require different levels of membership. The top level of membership is the ASCM certification add-on, which is $199 annually. The base ASCM membership is $99. And then we've created a Twin Cities chapter membership, which is $50. So if you only want to participate in some of the networking events and some less intensive programs, maybe I'll call it, then a local membership might work for you. We'll kind of go through that with each of the events here, or each of the categories we're going to talk about. If you go into certification, and this is, I'll lay this out as kind of a different way to categorize education. If you go into certification, maintenance points are required. So you get the certification, and every 5 years you need 75 maintenance points. That's one of the reasons why we're creating these new and different kinds of education opportunities, is because I don't want to take the same certification over and over to stay certified. So we create a little bit more interesting way to gain those maintenance points. The other programs we talk about, the general education and the certificate programs even, those don't require maintenance points. So certifications are kind of that top level where you have to prove, or at least make an effort to continue learning and stay up to date in the supply chain world. One thing I'm not going to talk about tonight is dates or pricing, because we're recording this and we want to make it still be relevant 3-4 months from now. So the pricing is on the website, and there's so many options depending on what your membership level is. And the dates, of course, will continue to move as we move. Okay, so the first thing, and the thing that ASCM and APICS is maybe the most famous for, is the certification programs. CPIM is the oldest certification. CSCP came around in about 2006. CLTD around 2017-ish, something like that. And CTSC, Certified in Transformation for Supply Chain, is available now in a beta. We're going to start offering it in that January, February timeframe as a class that you can take. So certifications are really intense. That's a significant time commitment, usually in the 40 to 50 hours of class time. If you take the class, you can imagine with the reading and everything else, it's a significant time commitment. You can do it self-study. You can purchase the materials and the online learning system, access for a year, and go through the quizzes and the material reading and all of the little exercises. You can do that all yourself if you have that kind of motivation. People like me don't have that kind of motivation. We need a cadence, a class, a schedule of some kind that will keep us honest and keep us focused and moving through that process. So we offer those instructor-led classes almost everything we're doing in this regard right now is online. Although we have done in-house classes where the company wants us to go into the company and do it in person. But we offer the online virtual learning. Sometimes you watch the calendar, sometimes they're during the day, sometimes they're in the evenings, just depends on what availability you have as to which one you choose. Beyond the ASCM or AFIX offerings, we have a different certification, which is through the Demand Driven Institute. And ASCM Twin Cities is an authorized partner for the Demand Driven Institute, or DDI. And we offer 3 different certification prep workshops, which is the beginning one is the Demand Driven Planner, which gets you Demand Driven Planner Professional certification. The Leader class, which gets you the Demand Driven Leader Professional. And then the Demand Driven Operations Professional is really a follow-on from the Demand Driven Planner class. So the planner class is really for the people involved in the design of a demand-driven operating model. And then the operations is more the scheduling piece. And then the leader piece is more that high-level look at what in the world is this demand-driven operating model. One of the fun things about demand-driven is that once you take the class, you have lifetime access to the recordings of the class. And that's the current recordings, not the class that we do at that particular time. So as the world evolves and the methods change and more information comes out, you have access to that through a recording system on the Demand Driven Institute website. And it's really just another tool in the planning and inventory management realm. And the way I think about it, because I'm the person who teaches all of these classes at the moment, is that MRP works as long as we don't expect precision to work over longer and longer periods of time. So demand driven gives us a way to focus, place inventory and buffers in locations that allows MRP to work in shorter periods of time. And those periods of time change with your company and your industry. And really, it's about handling the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world that we live in today. It also creates a process around the 2 questions that I think are the key to success in supply chain, and that is how much and when. How much do I order and when do I order it? It's applicable to all industries. If you have too little of the right stuff and too much of the wrong stuff, this is something you should be exploring. There we go. Okay. Certificate programs. ASCM has created 4 different certificate programs. I don't have any word that they're going to produce more, but I don't have any doubt that they will eventually create further in this program. There's a planning certificate, a warehousing certificate, a procurement certificate, and a technology certificate. And I'm currently going through the technology certificate. I can't speak to the rest of them, but the technology one is pretty robust and pretty intense and a lot of information and very current in terms of what we're talking about. AI, blockchain, 3D printing, these types of topics. Anyways, fascinating. A lot of good content in there. Right now, these are available through the website for self-study. And if you have an interest or you look at it and say, boy, we really could use an instructor for this, we will create some instructor-led classes in the future if people show some interest in that. It's a shorter time commitment than the certification programs, but as I said, it's not a light endeavor. So I look at these as maybe a little bit of a confirmation of knowledge, or maybe a refresher in specific areas of supply chain. Maybe you've been in planning for years and you're trying to make a move into warehousing. This might be a way to kind of get that introduction and knowledge level that you're looking for to make those kinds of switches.
And I would concur with your comments in regards to I'm currently doing the planning one, and I would say it's a refresher.
Yeah, very good. So for me, the technology one, some of it's a refresher, but some of it I never heard of before.
Right.
It's not
I
really.
agree. It is tapping into some of the current stuff that's going
Yeah,
on, some of the
yeah.
changes.
Excellent. Thank you. Great
Yep,
feedback.
no problem.
Okay, the foundations of supply chain management is years ago, they had something called the principles and we created some classes with different modules of principles. They moved that to principles on demand, and then they morphed that into the ASCM foundations of supply chain management. They are not the same material, which is what I kind of, when I first looked at it, I thought, well, that's just the same material put in a different format. It is not. So this is 6 individual modules with a lot of different information online. Again, very robust content. We are recommending that you take the full suite, that you get access to the full suite. And now I said I wasn't going to talk about prices, but here I go. The full suite for members is $230, and that's the base ASCM membership. So the full access for a year is $230. For the individual modules, it's $150. Take that times 6, you far exceeds the $230 for full suite access. It's an annual subscription plan, which is not a new concept in the world. And you get access for a year for that $230. And the reason we're focusing on that full suite access is that we are endeavoring to create instructor-led workshops that pick and choose from the different areas. So we might have 2 sessions on sales and operations planning. We might have 2 sessions on inventory management, and they are not in the same individual module. Therefore, if you bought the full suite access for $230, then you'll get into the class without having to buy the materials again. If you bought the individual module, likely you're going to have to buy another individual module to be able to be in the class with us. And it just gets too confusing. As you can tell, I've already confused myself. So these are building blocks. Again, if you're in a situation where you're in purchasing or planning and you want to move into logistics a little bit, or maybe into sales and operations planning, you can really grow that level of knowledge or move from one department to the other. Another situation where it's self-study at the moment, but we're working on creating these classes, and I think that will be one of the pieces that we're really pushing as we go through the next year. Edutainment. I like to look at this as trying to make learning fun. It's also a way where we involve the student in the workshop. So instead of you watching PowerPoint, I know you guys love to watch PowerPoint day in and day out, but some people I've heard kind of get bored with that. So we try and involve the student in the workshop, in the learning. I think analogy and metaphor is what really makes learning fun. And of course, the hands-on, in the Penguin Lego factory example, where we teach how MRP works and maybe how it could be improved. You're actually working with Legos, trying to put them together. And it's quite an intense workshop when people get frustrated with their coworkers. We also have a distribution game that is an online solution. We don't have that one quite ready to go yet, but it's essentially the online version of what we used to call the beer game. And that can be some fun learning as well for the online world. The Penguin Lego factory is an in-person, because we have to actually put together little penguins out of Legos. And when I first heard about this, I said, you got to be kidding me. But those little Lego blocks turn into really just an adorable penguin. And what we're trying to do here is really create learning opportunities that challenge our deep truths. If you don't know what a deep truth is, that's things that everybody knows or many people know is true, but it turns out it's not true. And that's where we get into some discussions and open learning, when we try and understand, why do we really believe something that's true, when in fact we can prove that it's not true if we just stop accepting it. ASCM also has a supply chain sustainability workshop. This is a new program, again, from ASCM. And it's about 15 hours of class time. There is not an exam, not a certification that goes with it. And this is generally, I'm going to call it general information for most people. But if you have a company that's trying to get more into the sustainability world, this is a great way to bring your team together and get some knowledge and get some base, where do you start working on sustainability? What are the things you can do if you're in purchasing, if you're in engineering, if you're in logistics, where can you have an impact? And, if you go to too many classes or trainings around the world, the circular economy is always talked about, what I call natural resource management, whether that's electricity or fuel or whatever. That's an important topic. And we've been talking about the triple bottom line for years, but do we really know how we can impact that triple bottom line? So this workshop, brand new. We have an offering coming up in September. Again, I said I wasn't going to talk about dates, but there we go. For people who want to kind of jump in and see if we can't learn a little bit more about sustainability. The ASCM Twin Cities certificate offerings. This is brand new, something that we've created or are creating as we speak. So this is only available from ASCM Twin Cities. What we're doing is trying to encourage people to break out of that, those deep truths that I talked about, challenge the way things are done, and challenge the things that we have accepted for years. Not that those things are necessarily wrong, but the world has also been changing. So are they still right? And what we're trying to do is create that environment for creative and innovative solutions to problems and issues that you're currently facing. And what we're calling this is because I woke up one day and I said, well, I call myself a thought leader and all these other people call themselves a thought leader. What does it really take to become a thought leader? And it turns out all you got to do is write it down and say you're a thought leader. And I thought, well, that sounds a little too easy to me. So we've created this ASCM Twin Cities Thought Leader Certificate Program. And where we're at currently in the development is it's a 2-workshop session. There's 2 sessions to complete the leader certificate. And they're about 3 weeks apart. So we come together for the first one and we talk about, here's an issue that we think needs to be rethought. Let's talk through it. Let's understand the basic where we are today. And let's understand what maybe might be wrong with that. And let's question it. Let's keep asking why, what is happening that we can't make this work? And basically we send people away after that for them to think on it and come back with maybe a podcast, maybe a video, maybe a PowerPoint presentation, something explaining to us their idea as to solve this or how to dig out from under the fact that this thing, whichever it is we're talking about, isn't really working. So we're creating a way to collaboratively learn by supporting or questioning in your discussions with other people who have different ideas and asking those thought-provoking questions. What if we did it differently? How would that work? Would that impact your organization? I keep trying to hit the next button and apparently I have to be more accurate. Kind of along those same lines, we've got the mastermind program. We've had one of these. I think it was either in the spring or last fall. Time is moving at a different pace for me. And what we've done is we said, okay, let's let's pull people outside of their normal workload, and let's not talk about it in terms of a factory or production. So what we did with the first one was we said, let's think about an airline. And we broke into groups and said, you create your own airline. You tell me how many planes you need, how many pilots you're going to have, what's the flight attendant situation, how are you going to deal with spare parts, what routes are you going to fly. So just basically create this airline. We're not asking you to finance it or get approvals and all that stuff. If you want it, you got it. And then we focused on what would happen if this went wrong? What would happen if that went wrong? And so it's kind of a risk management, a look at scheduling, because if you're flying from one city to another and then from there back, it's different scheduling than if you're flying from one city to another and from there to a third city and then back. So scheduling, risk management, and just in general resource management, by looking at something completely outside of what your normal workload is. And it was our first attempt at it. We had great feedback, and team building is another piece of that, where people came together and worked with some people on their own normal teams and from people outside. So they got different perspectives. So it was a very interesting thing. So mastermind is that, and we'll get another one of those on the schedule that does something different. And then the next piece on this slide is continuous education, right? Based on the foundation materials, I already talked about that. We're going to create some new courseware that will be based on those foundations, and we can work through that together. The supply chain summit that we had in the spring, and we're turning into an annual event. It's a full day event, multiple speakers, multiple topics, kind of like a mini conference, and that, with networking and a variety of topics, you're going to be able to find something that's interesting to you throughout that. Sometimes it's supply chain stuff. It might be new technology things. It might be soft skills. But in the first one, we had 7 speakers over the day, and we'll see what we learned from that for next year. But next year we're scheduled for April 24th, and we had great feedback. So we're looking for a great event next year. Okay, now I'm shifting gears a little bit into what I call the company focus things. So still impacts the individuals, but from a company focus, a couple of years ago, we created something called Access Pass. And the way it came about was we said, okay, we're an individual member organization. So we provide membership to individuals, and then they can go get certifications or trainings or come to networking events. But how does that impact the company? And so we said, let's create a company membership for companies that are trying to train, more than 2 people. Let's create that company membership that gives them access, creates some membership levels, and 10% below the member rates for people that they bring into that Access Pass program, and a few other advantages. And so this is a company-focused attempt to work on workforce development instead of individual trainings. And let's actually have the trainings that people go to align with what the company is trying to achieve. And so this is it's a very open program, requires a lot of kind of thought processes to happen, where you might create 3 or 4 workshops that are all connected, but not everybody goes to all of the workshops, et cetera, et cetera. So just a way to tie companies into the process of training their individuals. And one of the things on here is a career connection. So I'm going to talk about that in this next slide. And I know there's a lot of stuff on here. So for the PDF that'll come out, you'll have that. But the idea behind the career connection came about because I see too many disconnects. And the one disconnect that frustrates me is that we use a resume to screen who we're going to interview in our companies. And what things are we looking for in our candidates? We're looking for attitude, personality, maybe team spirit. Any of those on a resume? No, they're not. So why would you use a resume to screen for the things that you're looking for when they're not on the resume? Conversely, if you look at job fairs, a company can go and put up a booth and be in a live job fair. But if you're not Best Buy or Target or Cargill, maybe you're not really the big draw. So what we said is, let's create an event where the company can post, let's say 3 to 5 jobs that they have open. We will post it like it's a workshop and people can sign up for it, which means they're interested in the company, they're interested in the job, but they want to learn more and the company wants to attract talent. So it's kind of like a individual company job fair that says the company is here and the candidates are here. Let's come together in a virtual meeting and let's do 3 things. One is the company is going to tell where are they, what's the advantage of living in the area where they are located, and what kind of community are they, that kind of thing. And what's the company culture look like? What is the attitude of people? How do people get along? What's the teamwork? All kind of the things inside of a company that if I'm looking for work, that's what I want to hear about. And then the third piece is simply a 10-minute individual one-on-one conversation with a candidate and somebody from the company that can say, this is a person that I talked to them, that got their personality, kind of see where they're headed, what their beliefs are and thoughts and team spirit, all kinds of that stuff. And I want to talk further with this person. So it's really a screening, not an online interview. It's really a screening to say, this is a person I want to go further with. And I think it really hits on what are the things we want to screen for instead of using the resume, which we probably used for at least 50 years. And it doesn't always work out the way we hoped. So this is a way to create an event to bring people to your company. Yes, in the world we live in today, the company has to sell themselves as well to the candidate. And then the candidate has to do the same thing back. So that's available through Access Pass. It's also available as an individual event if a company wants to do that. Okay, the next thing we have is sponsorship opportunities. Event sponsorship, we've just started these in the last year or so. And where we are today is we've got 3 levels of event sponsorship, depending on the event. If a company wants to sponsor a networking event, let's get together at a location, let's network. That's kind of the lowest level. The next level is let's get together at a Pinstripes or a Punch Bowl Social or places that have activities that we can do. That's kind of that mid-range. And then the top one is something like Top Golf, where it costs quite a bit more. So that's the highest level of event sponsorship. The idea is you'll bring people together, build awareness of your company by being that event sponsor, and of course, bring some people with you to network as well. The scholarship fund is also kind of a new thing, about 3 years old now, but this type of contributions is kind of new to us, where people can give or companies can give multiples of $1,000. So an individual might give $1,000, a company might give 5 times that or 10 times that. And the idea there is to assist students in building connections into the professional world, into the industry, and for the company, create a pipeline of talent that comes from different universities or one university. But the idea behind the scholarship fund is the funds are used not to send people to college, but to help students attend ASCM Annual Connect Conference and to fund various case competitions in local schools. And so we're trying to, again, building those connections into the professional industry while they're still in school and help them get to that next level of their careers. The enterprise sponsorship is to ensure that the chapter continues to innovate and grow. That is purely a contribution to the chapter that says, we like what you're doing, we want you to keep doing it, and let's give some money so that the chapter can continue to grow and create those innovations. The in-house training, again, company focused. We can design education programs for the people in your company. Again, we're looking at workforce development. It's not always true that one size fits all is the best approach. So we look at how can we, some individuals, maybe 3 individuals need a certification, maybe 10 individuals need some foundations work, and maybe 5 individuals need a different certification or a certificate program. So we try and work with the company to understand what they're looking for, and then how can we provide it. So we're looking for what is the right training for individuals or for departments. This can be, and we've had companies do this, use some of the edutainment offerings, for example, to do some team building. People that don't always work together, might be in different locations. Let's bring them together, help them meet, but give them some learning at the same time. And then the group trainings within a company, the idea is that that will help the company to improve, again, between workforce development and how do companies hit the goals that they have without bringing the team along. That's a mystery to me. So that's where we bring that together. And then the last slide before the final slide, is that even legal? I shouldn't have probably said it that way. Anyway, there's various opportunities we create. The networking events that we talked about in event sponsorship, Topgolf, games and fun, and just an open gathering. These are things that members can choose to attend. And if it isn't free, sometimes it's a small amount of money because there is a cost to these things, but it's usually relatively inexpensive. There is ASCM Connect Conference, which is an annual event, usually in the fall. This year it's September 11 through 13 in Louisville, Kentucky. And that is, an individual pays for those trips. And then SCORE DS. There's been a revamping of SCORE. It used to be just called SCORE. Now it's SCORE Digital. We don't have a public offering currently, but there's a potential in-house workshops. If a company wants to say, I want to embrace this SCORE framework, we can put something together for the in-house workshops. And that again is there's not a exam that goes with that. It's purely attend the workshop and take that information and use it in your company to help benefit the thought processes and how we look at supply chain. So again, some of the things we've talked about are only ASCM Twin Cities. Those various levels of membership, $50 for local covers a few things, $99 for ASCM covers a whole bunch of things, and then the $100 add-on from that, so $199 gets you into the 3 or now 4 APIC certification classes. Certifications, again, very intense, a lot of information, takes a lot of effort and stick to it. That requires maintenance points, which means once you get the certification, you really need to be on top of, maybe it's only 8 hours a year that you have to do, but you got to stay on top of those. And again, watch our website for the dates and the pricing and the different opportunities that are out there. And of course, reach out to the chapter, to Natalie, if you've got something you heard me talk about that isn't on the schedule, or you just missed something and when's the next one, reach out and ask those questions so we know that there is an interest out there. And with that, thank you for attending. I am allowing 15 minutes or so for questions. The website again is there, and you can ask us anything. Hopefully some of what you heard resonates with you and creates some interest, but I think I'm going to stop the recording and not necessarily have the questions on the recording, and then we will go from there.